Hello, it's Tuesday, 28th of June 2022, Notcast 214. Today I'm going to be talking about R.E.M.'s 2004 to 2007 era, focusing on the numerous live releases that they had from that period. Here they are, R.E.M.LIVE in Dublin, R.E.M.LIVE at the Olympia, the book R.E.M.LIVE, which turns up later on, and the 6-disc DVD box set of their TV appearances for MTV R.E.M. TV, which features quite a lot of material from the band playing live, including, by the way, R.E.M. TV features 11 live versions of Losing My Religion, which is quite good because R.E.M. at the Olympia doesn't feature any, which makes it a good album, depending on who you ask, although I'll get to that later on. Now, the way that I pick my Notcasts is related to, I think, an element of my personality, which is, if you probably or haven't already noticed, I'm quite obsessional about certain things. I want to become, or I want to know everything. The song by Jesus Jones, Info Freako, features the line, Info Freako, there is no end to what I want to know, as if somehow by learning and understanding absolutely everything about the music which has spoken to me at difficult points in my life, by understanding all the minutiae, all the trivia around that, I can somehow unlock the secrets of the universe, and maybe the secrets of the universe lie in Peter Buck's Rickenbacker. Who knows? I certainly don't, although, god damn it, I'm going to try and find out. And somehow I think if I read everything, I know everything, I understand how everything fits together, I'm somehow able to understand what the secret is to life and the mysteries of love, as Julie Cruz sang on her album Floating Into the Night. Doesn't always work that way, I'm afraid. It ends up, I just become a human being, or some kind of, flesh pod that accumulates random trivia about music and musicians, and then relays it back to you through the glorious medium of the YouTubes. So there we have it. Today, talking about R.E.M. and the live touring that went alongside the album Around the Sun. The last episode about R.E.M. a little bit of a while ago, talking about Around the Sun, I have to be fairly blunt about it. I still feel this way about it. It is the worst R.E.M. studio album. And no amount of live releases will make it anything less than the worst R.E.M. studio album. I saw the band twice on the tour, the Around the World, Around the Sun World Tour. Here's the tour booklet that goes with it. The photographs in this tour booklet also appeared in various forms or in slightly different configurations in the book R.E.M.LIVE. So let's talk about the tour and talk about the releases that go with it as we go through. So the first thing then about the tour is that in what I think it's fair to say is that the Around the Sun album is, by any standards, not the best R.E.M. album. But on stage, R.E.M., even if they weren't a great studio band, were still a compelling live proposition. And they toured the world in 2004 and 2005, mostly playing Europe twice, America, I think twice, various places that they hadn't been to before. All of them are listed on the back of the tour booklets here, which incidentally, I think this was also sold as a tea tray, this design. From the band's shows, and the two shows I saw, one at the Hammersmith Apollo on the 19th of February 2005, also known as the Hammersmith Odeon to Motorhead fans, and then the show at Hyde Park on the 2nd of July 2005, which part of it was released on a DVD box set. So the Around the World, Around the Sun tour was overall a combination of mid-sized venues. In America, they played support on the Vote for Change tour alongside Bruce Springsteen in arenas before they went back and played mid-sized theatres, 5,000 size in the US. In Europe, it was a mixture of arenas and theatres. London, for example, they played the Hammersmith Odeon. I'll have to forget that it was ever called the Hammersmith Apollo, because Apollo is the god of war and Odeon obviously is the god of mid-sized theatre rock. So they played the Hammersmith Odeon, but they also played places like the NEC in Birmingham, a cavernous shell that's designed like an aircraft hangar. And again, the shows that I saw, the two of them, one was pretty good, the other one I felt like I was watching a band playing on a television whilst in a different postcode, because the show at Hyde Park was absolutely huge. It's still the biggest show I've ever been to, actually, Live 8 at Hyde Park. I think they had 200,000 people capacity for that show. The other biggest show I went to was Robbie Williams at Nebworth in 2003. I went to see Robbie Williams largely in bored boyfriend capacity. Anybody that has a bloke and saw Robbie Williams with their girlfriend went knowing that, to be honest, if your girlfriend had the chance, she might very well go home with Robbie Williams instead of you. But that was at Nebworth, where Robbie Williams was supported by Moby, The Darkness, I think Echo and the Bunnymen as well, actually. It was a really interesting bill. And there was a couple of others, and it was very hot, very warm, and I wore a hat. I don't know why I'm telling you that, but I did. Probably because it was very, very sunny, and hats are a very important part of the way, especially when you've got hair like mine, of not getting sunburn on the back of your head. So the Around the Sun tour by R.E.M. Obviously, in support of the Around the Sun album, here's the DVD edition of it that was released in 2005. At this point, by the way, all the B-sides on the singles from Around the Sun are live tracks. So we have, I think, Don't Go Back to Rockville, You Are the Everything, and These Days live. We're on the Leaving New York single. Man on the Moon, Aftermath contained the rehearsal versions of All the Right Friends, High Speed Train, and I think So Fast So Numb from the rehearsals in Athens, effectively new studio versions of the songs. The single Wanderlust featured a version of Low and The Outsiders and Bad Day live in, I think, Zurich or Zagreb or somewhere like that. And then the last single from the album, Electron Blue. Also backed with live tracks, these being Sweetness Follows, Leaving New York, and What's the Frequency, Kenneth. Surprisingly, not a live version of Losing My Religion, but there was a sense that the B-sides were very perfunctory, very much a kind of like, well, we better put some extra songs on the B-sides, and we might as well just choose some random live tracks. Bearing in mind that the UK was pretty much the only country in the world where R.E.M. was still releasing singles. I think Wanderlust was something like their 31st single, and it was probably, I think, the last one that went into the top 40 or something like that. It's pretty exciting. Well, it isn't actually. I didn't even buy it when it came out. It took until last year during lockdown when I realised I didn't have enough CDs that I ended up buying it because I just wasn't interested. No point whatsoever. The first show from the Around the Sun World Tour that has been recorded and been released was a show that was recorded for the BBC at St James's Church in London. I think it was on around the 14th or 12th of September 2004. A 25-minute version of the show was released on was broadcast on VH1 as video, and two of the songs from that, I forget which two, are on the DVD version of this as bonus live tracks, really skimping out on the extra tracks. They could have put the 25 minutes on there and made it perhaps a little less Spartan. Obviously, if someone's selling you a 5.1 DVD surround sound with a documentary and live performances and CDs, what you want is more than two songs, especially if you know that all the songs were recorded. But the first material and one of the first shows on the tour was the St James's Church show. And the St James's Church show is just a show that the band paid to competition winners, broadcast on the BBC. The audio version of this is released on the R.E.M. At the BBC box set that was released in 2018. And it is the last live set that's on here. So let's go through the discs very, very quickly. Hopefully this is the last one. Oh no, it's definitely the first one. So the last audio disc that's on here is, I think, this one, St James's Church, London, England, 2004. It's 12 songs, including the intro by a DJ recorded at St James's Church. I've seen a couple of shows at St James's Church. It's lovely, it's intimate. The sound is terrible because it's a church, it's not designed for rock bands. And there is no bad seat in the house, although there are an awful lot of columns near the stage. This performance features 12 songs, more correctly 11 songs, plus the intro. One song was performed, broadcast and released, which had been taken off this release, and that is the song She Just Wants to Be, which I don't think is anywhere else on the set, actually. So you've got, as I said, you've got 11 live versions of Losing My Religion on the R.E.M. at the MTV set, but you don't have one version of She Just Wants to Be on R.E.M. at the BBC. That said, R.E.M. at the BBC, missing that one song. That one song does appear on the band's 2005 fan club package, which I'm going to open the fan club package now. So this was sent out sometime early 2005. Technically speaking, it calls itself R.E.M. I think 2004. It features a 2-song CD, features I Want to Be Wrong and She Just Wants to Be, recorded at the St James's Church on September the 15th, 2004. It features a little booklet here, which features, a treatise to joy, peace, comfort and hope, and an R.E.M. sticker or a stick-on tattoo or something stupid that maybe you can iron onto a t-shirt. Their fan club packages, by the way, I know I just called it stupid. It isn't. It's just intricate and full of silly nonsense, really. So you've got She Just Wants to Be from the St James's Church has only been released on the CD in the fan club package, and you also had a little, strangely, an R.E.M. calendar which ran all the way through from I think January 2005, again using photographs from the early part of the tour, featuring stuff from video shoots and things like that you could turn into a calendar, running all the way through to January 2006. This, by the way, is clearly a photograph from the St James's Church, because very few venues have stained glass windows that aren't churches indeed. There's obviously the wonderful Scott McCoy, who has been playing, or was playing, as a member of R.E.M. from about 1998, 97 all the way through. That's a shot from the Aftermath video shoot. Here's some other photographs of various bored millionaires. Oh, look, that looks like R.E.M. at a church. Artie out of focus, and there's January 2006. So that is the fan club package that was sent out early 2005. Features, by the way, an advert for R.E.M. at Hyde Park. The R.E.M. holiday calendar, photographs by David Belzile, who did the photographs for the Hello book and also for the tour programme. And there's as you can see, tickets on sale Saturday 18th of September for R.E.M. Even though the original show, which was the first show which was announced, which was the Hammersmith Apollo show, Hammersmith Odeon show, sold out very, very quickly. I was very, very lucky to get 2 tickets, and the show at Hammersmith was the last show that I saw by anybody before I became a parent. And after I became a parent, the idea or the concept of perhaps going to see R.E.M. at Hyde Park seemed less attractive, because I was in a state of perpetual exhaustion. The other releases from around about this time that cover this, so there was a CD called the R.E.M. Jukebox, 15 essential tracks picked by Michael Stipe, Peter Buck and Mike Mills, and this features I think this one features an exclusive R.E.M. track. No, it doesn't. I'm fibbing. There is one of the compilation CDs that features a version of Boy in the Well from St James's Church, but there was also this CD which was given away with The Sun, a despicable British newspaper. Google why perhaps people think The Sun is despicable. In the days when they shrink wrap CDs free to covers of the newspapers, this features R.E.M. featuring Chris Martin performing Man on the Moon live at the Hammersmith Odeon in 2004, where their band played a 9-song set for charity. I didn't go to the gig at Hammersmith in 2004 because I was seeing the Wonder Stuff at the Camden Barfly, playing a warm-up show to announce their new album Escape from Rubbish Island, which I thought was a better move, and frankly I still think it's a better move, because it is the smallest Wonder Stuff show that I have seen in my life, and I have liked the Wonder Stuff for 32 years. So they played Hammersmith Apollo stroke Odeon, and in the Hammersmith Odeon they played a really unusual set list. They played 7 Chinese Brothers, which they hadn't played for a very long time. They opened with I Took Your Name. I really enjoyed the show, but it was incredibly warm and very, very clearly sold out. And they played arenas as well. They had a live release, R.E.M. Live, recorded at Dublin's The Point in 26th and 27th of February 2005, the last indoor shows of the Around the Sun tour. This was the first R.E.M. live album that was officially released. I mean, you could argue and say that actually it's not really a live album, it's actually a live DVD where they've just turned the soundtrack and put it onto CDs and turned it into a live album. I don't have the vinyl edition of R.E.M. Live because I wasn't that impressed with the tour and I wasn't buying vinyl at the time. I lived in a flat, it was small, and there you are. This was the first R.E.M. live album, and I mean, disappointingly, the cover lacks any of the majesty or the mystery of any of the R.E.M. album covers before. It's just a red tinted photograph of Michael Stipe looking oddly like the Devo live album, and it comes with a very, very Spartan booklet here, which kind of skimps on the cash there, black and white text. I mean, there is an element of R.E.M. Live really feels like a not necessarily a contractual obligation, but it feels like quite a cynical, calculated move as a release, even though it makes very clear that it's their first ever live album. What it does do is that I think it's a way to reclaim the stillborn studio recordings of the Around the Sun album. As I mentioned before, the Around the Sun album sounds like it's songs that were made by committee. It's like a lasagna of sound, or maybe when you kind of like do a combination of food that's left over the day before payday and you've got no food in the house. I remember once I had let me think, I had a chicken tikka with pasta and it was disgraceful. I just hated it. But I had the chicken, I had the tikka masala sauce, and I had pasta. I didn't have rice. I couldn't afford rice until the next day when I got paid. I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And even now I'm like, never again. There are some things that you do once and you go, never again. Like seeing Battlefield Earth in the cinema. You just go, nope, not doing that. Done it once, been there, done that, disgraceful. Let us never talk about it. Delete it from the catalogue, like those early Kraftwerk albums that Ralph Hutter pretends never existed. These R.E.M. Live is a way of reclaiming back from the studio the songs from Around the Sun. So the set list is probably about 5 or 6 songs from Around the Sun and a combination of material from the rest of the band's career, including songs like I Took Your Name, So Fast, So Numb. Third song is Boy in the Well. Whoever's been writing those set lists, they are not doing a good job of pacing around here, because you follow Boy in the Well with Cuyahoga, and then Everybody Hurts, Electron Blue, and you go Bad Day. So it feels like a weird tango, because it's like fast, slow, slow, fast, slow, slow, fast, slow, Great Beyond, Average, Leaving New York, slow, Orange Crush, fast, I Want It to Be Wrong, slow, Final Straw, slow, Imitation of Life, The One I Love, Walk Unafraid, Losing My Religion, What's the Frequency, all fast, then Drive, slow, Don't Go Back to Rockville, fairly slow, I'm Gonna DJ, moderately fast, Man on the Moon, Anthem. It's a bizarrely paced set list, and it's not a great presentation. The other thing is, it's obviously the band are reclaiming their worst studio album and saying, look, these songs aren't bad when they're played on stage, which perhaps isn't what you should be doing if you're a band when you're releasing your first live album. It's probably you shouldn't be doing it on the back of your worst, the first live album shouldn't be done on the back of the worst studio recording that you have. Now, the strange and unusual thing about this is this is a deeply unsatisfying release, not for anything to do with the audio, but everything to do with the visuals. The visuals were directed by a video director called Blue Leech. In my opinion, Blue Leech is absolutely terrible, because you can never have one shot where perhaps 8 will do. I watched part of the Depeche Mode Touring the Angel DVD, also directed by Blue Leech, and we were looking at a point where we were looking at an average of 2 cuts per second, so nothing had more than about 12 frames. Your brain could barely latch onto it, because, by the way, a human brain sees at about 10 frames per second, which is why we have the illusion of movement on a 24 frame per second film. And I think, if I remember correctly, Star Wars was shot at 24 frames a second. The Empire Strikes Back was shot at 18 frames per second. But if you go below about 12, the human eye is able to detect individual frozen moments as opposed to a continuous stream of motion. And with this, what you ended up is if you have 2 cuts a second, you have 12 frames of a shot and then it disappears completely, and it's just not enough. You can't grasp onto what's going on. You're being bombarded with colours. It feels like you're watching the video equivalent of some kind of epileptic fit, or maybe some kind of Scrabble board where everything is there but it's all in the wrong order, and it doesn't make sense. You can't follow a sense of what's happening, who's on stage, who's standing there, who's that person, why are they doing that. It's just a combination of fast cuts like an action movie that seems to lack any coherence or any narrative or any overriding guide. The other thing about Blue Leech, from his editing style, is he's very, very keen on his effects boxes, and so especially on the Depeche Mode one, also on this, there's a lot of degraded footage. So there's shots of perfectly professionally edited material that are then played on a monitor, and they film the monitor as opposed to actually showing you what they've actually filmed, in the way that somehow this is some weird, wacky kind of thing. It's an exciting artistic statement. It isn't. It's bloody annoying. I want to be able to remember the show, and I want to be able to experience the show the way I remember it, and not just have Blue Leech constantly tell me how good he is at having various effects boxes. On the Depeche Mode one, for example, there's a section where they put some red beads in front of the camera. Presumably they think it's exciting and revolutionary. It isn't. It's annoying. So Blue Leech is, in my opinion, the worst video director for long-form concert videos that there has ever been, and it's a great shame that R.E.M.LIVE in Dublin is mutilated by his epileptic and incoherent editing style. He has fallen out of favour. Blue Leech is probably the noughties equivalent of the guy that directed Van Halen's Live Without a Net. He did a lot of concert videos in the 80s, and everything was very, very predictable. I will go and check my copy of Van Halen's Live Without a Net, and I'll tell you who the offending video editor is. Okay, so I've checked my copy of Van Halen's Live Without a Net. The video director is not the guy I thought it was. I thought it was David Mallet. And it isn't David Mallet who directed this, but this clearly has been taking David Mallet lessons. One of the keystones of David Mallet as a video director in the 80s is always show the bimbo, frankly, is their number one rule. And if she's got a white top that shows a bit of cleavage, always show that as well. And it's not a good way to present music videos, because you end up... I was watched Live Without a Net relatively recently, and when I was watching it, I was looking at the screen and going, she might be dead now. And she's, got a top off and showing everyone the fact that she has a chest. And I'm going, feels a little weird. Almost feels as weird as when I'm listening to the Prince albums, where he's constantly talking about who he's going to invade with his magical penis. And bearing in mind that Prince is obviously now dead, there's an element of going, dude, you're dead. This has not aged particularly well. I'm not interested in a guy who's dead telling us what he's going to do with his fantastic magical willy, which of course is many Prince albums. Prince was fantastic, but also at the same point, the man was a horn dog. I was listening to a couple of the early Beatles albums with the Beatles and Please Please Me relatively recently, and whilst listening to it, I was kind of thinking, those guys really, really were horny. If there's one thing that comes screaming out of the early Beatles records, it's not just that it's the Beatles and that they're a good rock band. Those guys really wanted to do the sex, and they didn't sound like they were that fussy around who they were going to do it with. And so therefore, I don't quite know how I've got onto this. When I have an expectation around what an R.E.M. concert video or an R.E.M. album might be like, I don't want it to sound or feel like it could have been produced by any bloody bloke, or the video could have been directed by any geezer. And if you have a Blue Leech video, it's one of a production line of a very, very similar style. Some people have a very iconographic style. You can look at it and you instantly go, that's Anton Corbijn, that's Blue Leech, that's bloody annoying. But with Blue Leech, of course, it's just some guy. It's like kids got my first video Photoshop filter package and it's gone ding, 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 scrolling through all the effects whilst cutting twice or three times every second to make sure you get the impression that R.E.M. are playing on the stage. Oh my God, they're playing. It's fantastic. It's amazing. No, it's not, guys. It's bloody boring watching it. Stop doing it, guys. You're making R.E.M. look shit. So, luckily, the 2005 set of live shows is represented by two further filmed concerts, both of which are considerably less annoying than R.E.M. Live Dublin. Woo, amazing! And that is the show that's featured on R.E.M. TV. Disc 4 features a full set recorded at the R.E.M.LIVE Festival, and that was recorded on the 3rd of June 2005 during the stadium leg. And R.E.M. TV, it's difficult to get now. It's expensive, but it really is one of the very, very definitive how to do it kind of packages. When you get to disc 4, it features 3 shows: R.E.M. at the Tabernacle in London, at the Sonic Studio in Milan, and the last one is R.E.M. plus outtakes. What is frustrating about R.E.M. TV, and it's the only thing I dislike about R.E.M. TV, is that it doesn't present the sets in the order in which the concerts were played. It presents the sets in the order in which the concerts were broadcast. And what that means is that for R.E.M., for example, you have near enough the whole show. You have an hour and a half of live footage from it, but you have 6 songs in pretty good quality that have been cleaned up and properly edited, and the other tracks are effectively rough cuts. So, for example, R.E.M. features What's the Frequency, Kenneth, Leaving New York, Imitation of Life, Electron Blue, and Man on the Moon. They are played out of order, which means that at the end of one song, it's absolutely chucking down with rain, and Michael Stipe is wearing a hat. And the song after that, it's not raining, he's not wearing a hat, his suit isn't wet. It's a bit weird. It's almost as weird as Bill Berry's magical disappearing hat in the Road Movie DVD, because Road Movie was shot over multiple nights. Bill's baseball cap appears or disappears seemingly at random, and it's only when somebody points it out you can't unsee it. But there are also outtakes on there, and those outtakes are, I think, probably about 14 or 15 songs that between them make the whole of the R.E.M. show, which is both much more sympathetically edited, much more realistic in its presentation of the show, and also features some unusual songs. So it features, like, for example, the only video that's been released of The Outsiders live, Leave live, Me and Honey, Wanderlust. 4 really good songs that don't get played very often, weren't played very often by R.E.M. apart from on that particular tour. So R.E.M., by the way, is available on YouTube. I think one song has been removed from it, and also as not to offend the copyright people. But the show is on R.E.M. TV, and the R.E.M. show represents a much more faithful kind of story of what the R.E.M.LIVE experience was like. Perfect Square, as I've mentioned before, filmed in 2003, was a relatively straight presentation of an R.E.M.LIVE show. Tour film and Road Movie were both stylised from an editing point of view. R.E.M.LIVE was also stylised, but I think probably the word is more vandalised than stylised around that. Yes, so R.E.M. is, in my opinion, the definitive live release from that particular tour. The last show that was had any material issued from it was one of the last shows of the Around the Sun period. It was R.E.M. at Hyde Park on the 2nd of July 2005. I was at this show, the last Pink Floyd show. U2 played, Paul McCartney played, Coldplay played, or more correctly, maybe if I do it in the Matt Berry voice, the Coldplay. We had obviously Snoop Dogg, Green Day, who I didn't see. The Killers were there. That's the only time I saw the Killers. Obviously Pink Floyd, U2, Razorlight, Velvet Revolver, and a number of other bands as well. Saw Madonna, not impressed. Saw UB40, definitely not impressed. In fact, if it hadn't been for the fact that Pink Floyd were playing, we probably would have left after R.E.M. because it was a pretty long and boring 6 hours. But we were like, if we wait here for 6 hours, we'll get to see Pink Floyd for their first show in 11 years, which was also their last show ever. But we did have to go through and experience. We had to go and experience Dido. The Who were pretty good. Robbie Williams was pretty good. I wasn't there in boyfriend capacity because the chap who was with me was my brother. That would have just been weird. Obviously Madonna, Richard Ashcroft, he was pretty boring. But no, R.E.M. played in the middle of the afternoon before they then went off to their show, which was either in Vienna or Prague or somewhere like that. They played 3 songs, which I think were Everybody Hurts, Losing My Religion, and Man on the Moon. And one of those songs, I forget which one, is on the Live 8 box set. It was also the only time my brother saw R.E.M., but it counts in my opinion because, well, it happened. We were there, and it was a historic show. Sadly, of course, I think Putin is on one of the discs, so it was all photographs of the world leaders. All of them have now been deposed thanks to the glory of democracy, apart from Putin, who is not in a democratic position. I will try not to say much more about him. I'm not a fan generally of most of the world leaders. Of the three immediate countries I can think of, Putin, Biden, and Boris Johnson. Only one of them is somebody that I would actually be willing to, follow the beer and a puppy test. In case none of you have heard of it, there is a philosopher who came up with the concept of 2 beers and a puppy, which is his barometer of how he votes for politicians. And that barometer is: would you trust them with a puppy, or would you go for them for a beer? And if you wouldn't trust them with a puppy, and if you wouldn't go for a beer with them, you shouldn't be voting for them. And obviously that means out of the president before our current one in America, Boris Johnson, I wouldn't trust with anything, and I don't think I'd want to go for a beer or let Putin look after a puppy. That's just my opinion. They don't seem like warm, nice, trustworthy people. Again, that's just what I think. Your opinion may vary. You have the right to be wrong. So Live 8 was the second of the 2 shows that I saw. I don't remember very much about it. We were somewhere near the front, but there were still 200,000 people there, and R.E.M. were about this big, except when we looked on the screen, they were about that big. It was still a very, very long way away. We were almost definitely in a different postcode to the stage, but we were still very near to the front compared to everybody else. I looked at the video footage, and I thought at the time we were like, I think we're really far back, but when we looked at it, we were probably only about a quarter of a way deep into the stage, into the crowd, because the crowd went 3 times further back behind us than it did to the distance to the stage, and the band was still really, really small. I timed it. I went to see The Cure at Hyde Park in 2018. I timed the difference in the amount of time it would take to walk between one stage and the other. And I think if I'd have walked from where I was to the stage, it would have taken me 4 minutes, which, by the way, is about a fifth of a mile. Maybe slightly less than that, but that's still 300 yards to the stage. And I felt like we were really quite near to the stage compared to the people that were behind us. If you were, number 210,000 all the way at the back, you probably would have had a less optimum experience of watching the final Pink Floyd show. So R.E.M. played. They played 3 songs. It was over very, very quickly. I don't even remember who came on after that. 2005 then, the end of the Around the Sun tour, and the last shows that the band played as a six piece. They had an additional musician, Ken Stringfellow, who did not tour with the band again, and Ken has been accused of some unsavoury behaviour after that. Whether that's true or not, I don't actually know. The band did release a new studio recording following on from that. This was released, I think, in 2006. This is Instant Karma, the compilation album to raise money to save Darfur. I almost definitely pronounced that incorrectly. It features exclusive studio recordings by U2 and The Cure and Duran Duran and the Flaming Lips and the Postal Service. But of course, the one that is relevant today is R.E.M. covering John Lennon's Number 9 Dream. And that was where Bill Berry rejoined the band to record one song in the studio, that song being obviously the cover of John Lennon's Number 9 Dream. And the band played 2 shows with Bill on drums, one at, I think, Kingpin Bowling Alley for a wedding in October 2005, and another one for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when they were inducted. Obviously, I never saw Bill play live with R.E.M. I had tickets to see them play Wembley Arena, but the aneurysm managed to scupper that tour. But I'm just glad that somewhere on the planet Bill is alive and apparently relatively happy driving a tractor around. These things matter. And that was there was a 2006 fan club single, I Don't Have That, which featured a couple of recordings from a charity show that the band did, I think, with Bill on drums. And then the band announced that they were going to play 5 shows in July 2007 at the Olympia in Dublin, which was released as this: R.E.M. Live at the Olympia. 2 live albums, 2 recorded in Dublin. I mean, Dublin is a fantastic city. If I could live anywhere in the world that isn't in the UK, Dublin would probably be my number 2 city after Brussels, assuming I could speak Belgian. No, this is both a brilliant and annoying live record. It features the band played 5 shows, and their idea was to do a live rehearsal where they would play the new material that they'd been working on in front of an audience, plus a selection of unusual and rare songs that had not been played for a very long time indeed. So for REM Live at the Olympia, we have 39 live songs, which is every song that was performed over those 5 nights. And we have them on 2 CDs, and we have a DVD as well. The DVD is called This Is Not a Show. This Is Not a Show is a frustrating watch, not perhaps quite as frustrating as REM Live in Dublin, because it is directed by Vincent Moon. Vincent Moon again has also a very distinctive visual style, which is black and white, Super 8 footage, low quality, low resolution, edited in a fashion that means that you never actually get the whole of any one song, even though they clearly recorded all the shows with multiple cameras. You get maybe 6 or 7 live tracks on there, and you get a bunch of generally meaningless, somewhat boring live footage of security guards and Michael Stipe writing on a bit of paper and that type of stuff. Instead, concentrate on the audio section of REM Live at the Olympia, which is 39 songs, featuring a lot of songs which have both been premiered live and not been heard before. So, for example, Living Well is the Best Revenge. It's got 2 songs which weren't on the next studio album, so it's the only place that has seen the release for Staring Down the Barrel of the Middle Distance, and a song called On the Fly. Both of those are very, very good songs. I don't think those songs quite fit on the next studio record, but they're good songs, and I'm glad that they've got a release. But we've also got, for example, Man-Sized Reef, Houston, I'm Gonna DJ, all of the songs which the band had played live. You didn't get Supernatural Super Serious, which was the first single from the Accelerate album. Instead, you got an earlier version of it called Disguised. But you got, for example, Living Well is the Best Revenge, Second Guessing, Letter Never Sent. Some of these songs are songs that the band haven't played since 1983. Romance, for example, Wolves Lower, Harbour Coats, Carnival of Sorts. These are not songs that the band played very often at all. Auctioneer as well. These are not songs that were played often. But the frustrating thing about REM Live at the Olympia is that when you listen to it, it sounds like a compilation of songs that have been stuck on shuffle on your iPods, and when you listen to it, it doesn't feel like a gig. It feels like a live compilation album that's been put together with no thought or care for what it might actually sound like if you actually listen to it in order and you listen to all the songs. It's an iPod shuffle playlist of live material. If the sequencing reflected the set list orders that the band played the shows in, it would have been a far more satisfying experience. So, for example, and this is where I'm afraid I have to get my computer out of the way, and instead I will be lit by the neon glow of that. So we've got Living Well is the Best Revenge, is the first song on the album. That was the first song, and it's the first song on the album. Now, the second song on the album is Second Guessing. Second Guessing was played at positions 3, 16, 17, and 16 on the shows. So if you're going to have it in the actual order, it would have been in the encores. Letter Never Sent is the third track on the album. It was only ever played in slot number 8. Staring Down the Barrel of Middle Distance is track 4, but it was only ever played in positions 2 and 9. Disturbance at the Heron House, 5th track on the album, number 11 on the night it was played. Mr. Richards is number 6. It was played 4 or 5. So that's in place. Houston is track 7. It was played somewhere between tracks 5 and 7 on the night. That's in place. New Test Leper was played in position 17 in the encore. It's number 8 on this album. Cuyahoga was number 13. It was only played once. It's number 9 on this album. Electrolyte was often the last song of the sets, played in position number 18, and here it's number 10. So you end the set going, I'm out of here, end of the show. No, you're not sticking that as the last track on the album. That's going to go in the first quarter. Man-Sized Reef, for example, is number 11. It was about that spot in the set lists. So Central Rain is number 12. It was about number 13. On the Fly was played in positions 7, 10 or 8. It's number 13 on here. Maps and Legends, Sitting Still. Driver 8 was only played once. It's number 16 on this album. It was only played in position 8 on the set list. You can tell I'm reading this off a bit of paper. Horse to Water was the last song of the main set, normally around position 16. It's halfway through the album here. And then also I'm Gonna DJ, which was one of the last songs that was played. Again, that was the last song of many of the shows, alongside Electrolyte. I'm Gonna DJ is number 18. It's halfway in the set as opposed to near the end. Circus Envy is number 19. It was position 3 the one time it was played. Drive is number 21. It was position 3. Feeling Gravity's Pull is number 22. Played on the night, position 6 in the set list. Until the Day is Done is number 23. It was generally number 9 number 19 or number 12. Auctioneer is number 25 on this album. It was number 3 or number 17 when it was played. Little America is number 26. It was number 10 or number 18. 1 Million was number 27. It was played generally either position 6 or position 14. Worst Joke Ever, track 29. That was only played number 7, so you've got one that's in the last quarter of the album that actually was played in the first third of the set. Welcome to the Occupation is number 30. It was only played in position number 3. Boxcars, Carnival of Sorts, is number 31 on this album. It was only halfway during the set. Harbour Coat is number 32. It was halfway during the set again, position number 9. Wolves Lower is number 33 on this album, but when it was played, it was number 5. I've Been High is number 34, but no, it was number 8 when it was played. Kahootek is number 35. It's position 10 when it was played live. And then, of course, you've got Pretty Persuasion, which is number 37. The last but one track, or the last but two track on the album, it was played at number 5 when it was played. Romance is number 38. That came in position 8. And then you close the album on Gardening at Night, which never closed a single show and actually opened up the encore. So it's fair to say that the set list and the running order that you've got for Live at the Olympia is incoherent nonsense, and you need to relabel and renumber all of your songs if you want to get the actual set list correct. And that is R.E.M.'s live period between 2004 and 2007, a period very, very well covered. Don't think I'm trying to talk you out of them. Do not buy these. If you like R.E.M. and you think, now if R.E.M. aren't making any new records and you want some live stuff, Live at the Olympia and Live in Dublin are actually very good documents. They're just, perhaps it's best to experience R.E.M. live in Dublin with your eyes switched off and your ears switched on, and maybe Live at Olympia with perhaps a shuffle button activated. But if you want a good, honest representation of what I think an R.E.M. show in 2005 was like, you really need to go for Rock Hammering on R.E.M. TV. That brings up and wraps up the R.E.M. Around the Sun World Tour. It's a very interesting period. On stage, the band always brought it. They were very, very good. Much like Metallica, when they made bad studio records, they didn't play bad shows. They were still really good on stage. And I do miss seeing R.E.M. I saw them a lot. I was very lucky to see them so many times. I love them dearly, and I think that they're the band that quit at the right time. But that is for the Notcast in 3 Notcasts time when I talk about R.E.M., because obviously I need to talk about the album that came out in 2008, Accelerate, the album that came out in 2010, Collapse Into Now, or maybe that was early 2011, and of course what the band have been up to since 2011. In the meantime, of course, I'm going to wrap up here. It's the end of the podcast as we know it, and I feel fine. Take care of yourselves and each other. Stay beautiful. And as Alan Fluff Freeman always used to say it, if you love somebody, tell them before it's too late. All right, pop pickers, that's no more pop songs for now. See you soon. Stay beautiful. Bye.